Hey folks, thanks for joining us today. I'm just trying to get the slides sharing full screen. I think they're not quite full screen for you at the moment. Please bear with me for 1 second. Just some technical issues. Okay, I'm getting a thumbs up. I think we're good. Okay, welcome everyone. If you can just let me know in the comments that you can see the slide, you can see me, and you can see Alice. You can see Alice, who's our guest speaker. Hello. And you can hear us loud and clear. That would be great. Just want to make sure there's no little issues. I'm getting a thumbs up again. Always good. Okay, yeah, we're going to get started. So thanks for joining us today. We've got a great session lined up for you today. Keely, thanks. You can see us and hear us loud and clear. Great. So today we're going to be talking about Gen Z, and if you don't know much about Gen Z, you're in the right place. Gen Z are the sort of up and coming segment of, you're basically your next customers. They're entering the workforce. They have spending power and influence, and we're going to sort of dig into what makes them tick a bit today and make some links back to potentially what you can do on social media in terms of Gen Z and attracting them and engaging them. So just going to spend the next 30 seconds to introduce us and Crowd Control HQ. So my name is Dan Aston. I'm the marketing manager here at Crowd Control HQ, and I'm joined by Alice, who's the research and insights director at We Are Social. Hi, Alice.
Hello everyone. Thanks for joining.
Thank you. So if you haven't joined one of Crowd Control HQ's webinars before, or if it's the first time you're kind of seeing us and hearing about us, the next few slides just give you a little insight into what it is that we do and who we work with. So we're a UK-based social media management platform, and we help organizations like you to engage your social media audiences. So whether that's prospects or customers or your residents, whoever it may be, we give you the tools to help engage those folks. And we also give you the tools to help manage all of your social media in one place. So whether that's content, conversations, campaigns, accounts, team members, all of that, all in one place to take out the complexity of managing social. And we also help you analyze your social performance. So whether you want to report on your reach, link clicks, customer service metrics, response times, all of those kind of things, you can track many different metrics and analyze all of that in one place. So that's what we do. And who do we work with? So there's a few logos on the slide here. We work with many, many different organizations from both public sector and private sector. So if you kind of got any questions or you need to have a chat, just don't hesitate to reach out, and we'd be more than happy to help. So that's that bit over and done with. I'm going to pass you over now to Alice for the main session. The main slides of today's sessions. And if you bear with me 1 second, Alice, I'm just going to try to give you the full power to control the slides. Bear with me 1 second. Okay, so fingers crossed. You should now have the power. If you control the mouse, you should be able to flick between the slides. There we go.
Yeah, 1 second.
Looking good.
Cool. So just wanted to thanks, Dan. So welcome. This is what I'm going to take you through is a piece of research I conducted over the course of 3 months, and as Dan said, I'm the research insight director. We are Social. It's a creative agency, so our bread and butter is everything related to social media and looking into social insights, conversations. But for this type of research, I think we use a completely different approach, actually going back to anthropology and ethnography. And also I'm going to explain you why actually we decided to do what we did. Rather than tackling the usual way we would do, being like a social media creative agency. So next slide. Oh, it works. So we, as Dan said, Gen Z are very important audience for our clients and for us as an agency. And there is a lot of research out there. Some of them is very good. But what we actually started questioning at some point is that all most of the research we saw was actually portrayed its audience as more clean cut than millennials, and in the sense that they don't drink, they don't do drugs, don't have sex, and they are really much entrepreneurial activists devoted to social good, and they spend all their time online, and they also have the latest tech, which actually is not one of the things was not actually true. So we thought that that was a bit too good. They looked a bit too good to be true. And we also realized that most of the research is based on claimed behavior. So, answers to either like in focus groups or like survey. And we wanted to actually see what the discrepancies were between the claimed behavior and actual behavior. So next slide. So this is what we did. And this is the reason why we did ethnography. So ethnography is part of anthropology. And it is very based on the observation of people within their real life environment. So we went and first of all, we identified 12 Gen Zs in the UK. And as Gen Zs spans a broad very broad demographic, but we looked into more 17 to 23 years old. So there's sort of the older spectrum, but not very old anyway, 17. We identified them, and we went and we met them. We went to their houses, student residences, and we met their parents, pets, and we spent a whole day with each of them. And that really enabled us to, first of all, collect very interesting material. So not just pictures, but also recording, videos, and also like have a peek in their wardrobes and see what they're wearing, what they're buying. I really try to understand the paradox within this generation, which some of it is very part of, typical of teenagers. Some of it, I think, is very unique to our Gen Zs. So we saw what they do, and we did what they do in terms of we went, if they had to do something, if they had to meet friends, so if they had to go to the gym, we went with them and we did what they would usually do. So that also enabled us to build quite a nice rapport quite quickly. How we chose them, I think, will be quite interesting perhaps. We really wanted to try to find people from a different background. So we looked at, and different background, location, sexual orientation, ethnicity. So we had all of these criteria, and we also looked at city versus suburban areas, because often, social media, we all assume the old people live in London, they have access to all internet 24 hours a day, but in the suburban areas it's not as much really. And this is where I think also some differences actually bubbled up in the research. So we, off the back of it, and then you can see a picture of Adam from Glasgow. Really nice young man. So we came up with 6 main themes, and I'm gonna take you through each of them. I had 2 slides. I've got actually 3 slides for each theme. One is just my framing the theme, then why it's important. The third one, what the implications, very top line implications for brands. Mm-hmm. So let's start from, say, conscious contradiction. So what we actually realized is that, next one, got very excited. But what we actually realized was the Gen Z's behaving in really contradictory ways. And they might say, what I mean by that is, I've got an example in the slide, but they might like social media personality, and they might like at the same time a brand that has got some controversies or issue with that same social media personality, or so they will happily follow both even after scandals or issues, or they might say, oh, I don't like this brand, I think they're evil, and then actually the moment later we will spot a product from the same brand. And then once we told them, well, you just said it was you didn't like the brand. They said, oh, no, but that was a present, and this is nice, such a nice wallet. So I think in terms of contradiction, I think for me that was the most challenging element to pull out of what the implications for brands would be, because it's true. Teenagers tend to be quite contradictory, but to contradict themselves, but it's part of growing up, and these people have got lots of growing up to do. But the key thing, interesting thing, is that they're sort of happy double thinkers. So they will happily recognize they are contradicting themselves. And I think this actually feeds into the a bigger trend that we found in terms of like cultural references, is that this generation live in such a polarized society. If you think about moral tribalism, different tribal groups, everything either black or white, with what we see like in the news, but they don't accept that. They're very fluid, and this fluidity is not just in terms of gender and everything, but it also applies to the brands and to what they buy as well, and to their morals as well. So they're actually switching to challenge that polarization that they grew up in. And this is, again, if you think about it, fits into in terms of this fluidity. If you think about music consumption, I'm a millennial. I grew up with heavy metal, and I will always be a heavy metal person. But this, people actually we spoke to, they might listen to Reiki music and Nigerian disco at the same time. And based on some other study research, actually, this generation will listen to a minimum like 4 to 5 different music genres. And this fits again into that switching and changing. But the good thing about in terms of that, or like still figuring themselves out, is that they use brands for that. So I think the interesting element here is that actually even if they say online, oh, I don't like that brand, I don't like your brand, they might still actually buy the brand. And I think actually it also shows that they desire to really shape something they love and they like, or even they're having the opportunity to play an active role in the brand. And I know that most of my clients will say, I want to be loved, I want to be both. But it might not be actually that happens at the same time, and they might, it might be the brand that they talk about but they don't buy, or vice versa. So what their priorities are in terms of I think comms is a very important. There's another element which is about morals versus needs. These people might be devoted to social good, they're exposed to the world around them, so they're very, very aware. However, they've got high morals, but they still have needs. And usually if you want to buy sustainable brands, they're more expensive, they might not have money, so they will still shop, and this is what they told us, shop at brands like Primark and be happy about it. That's the decision of choosing. So I think this is something we need to bear in mind, that they're still figuring out also where the morals are and their needs are and what comes first. At the moment, their needs come first. So next one is this is my favorite, is learn and unlearn. And if you think about, just to give a bit of context, is the like fake news. I've been exposed to that for the past couple of years, but these people actually grew up with that. And it was quite surprising how most of them were like calling fake news without us mentioning and say, oh, what is fake news are on the internet, on Facebook, I don't trust it. So what we say here, distrust really has sharpened their filters. And that means they don't really trust what it's not just they don't trust what they see online, but also they don't trust what they're taught at school most of the time. And And they also noticed, because of fake news, and because they also know that there isn't one single version of the truth. So they challenge that. So they challenge, because of the distrust, they challenge what's given to them. I thought it was actually very interesting when we spoke to Afua. You can see in the picture, she's a lovely lady from Bristol. And she told us about how she started learning like history in school, and then she felt that there was a bit like whitewashed version of what Black history was. So what she did, she decided to go live. She decided to go not on YouTube, but she decided to go on Instagram and decide to follow those Black activists. They're really out there. They're really opinionated, like, for instance, the Slum Flower. And that helped her to challenge what was given to her in school and build on it. So this is why we are talking about unlearn. And I think this is very, very key, because they will want to be challenged by brands. They won't accept something just because it is given to them. They are very much growing up with like critical thinking and building on this critical thinking, and also try to look for the version of the truth. The interesting thing also found is within the learning is that they're also the DIY generation. So after we spoke to 12 people, out all of them, they've learned at least something. To build a bike, but then they're not like geniuses. They're just normal. They just learn how to build a bike on YouTube, and some of them learn to play guitar on YouTube, and in that extent, and now they have their own. They've got a group with friends, so they really use like tools like Instagram and YouTube as learning tools. And they would also refer to alternative educators, where it would be like TED Talks or something we work with on YouTube, which like YouTube creators of music. So always find alternative ways of learning, unpacking knowledge. They will challenge the old ways of thinking. So interesting. What is this? Is just could be like a bit cheesy, but if you've got something that you can teach them, it would be great to do that together with them, and also try to bring them together to learn from each other, because it will definitely listen to. Or if you have like, if you work with personalities or influencers, really try and use them to teach something to this generation, and give them the tools, so particularly to learn. And the third one is united. The third team is united and divided. That was very interesting as well, because we talked about the polarization of society, but we talked about the fact that now there are much smaller tribal identities. So this generation will, what we saw will sort of group around like smaller communities, or like we'll try to find safer places where to express themselves, because if they're doing openly, they might be attacked, or they might be labeled as snowflakes. So this is a word that's just come up in in the past couple of years, to be too sensitive. So what they do, they really try to connect in smaller, more intimate spaces. And it happens at the physical, so like in terms of community, physical level, and also online level. So interestingly, I think that the main difference between people who live in the city versus suburban areas was that those who are actually from suburban areas would be more attached to their local community. But by that, I don't mean at a city level. I mean a very, very granular level, like a street level. It would be very proud and will activate themselves to protect their street and their neighbors. Like for instance, creating Facebook groups, residents associations, to raise awareness of certain issues within the street. So using their like social media knowledge to do that. That's from a physical element. From a more like digital elements, half of them, which I think is quite, still quite good ratio, and half of them have a Finstars account. So I don't know if you know what Finstars are, but Instagram, it's a very curated tool. And then you've got your profile, all these people who've got really curated pictures of themselves. But then you've got the Finstars, which are private Instagram accounts, not curated at all. You can't see, like I wouldn't be able to see them. And only friends, close friends and close family members have access to it, which is very interesting because Finstars didn't exist like a couple of years ago. And then again, it's that type of image that go on Finstars. It's very much not curated, and then hence that enables more that connections between people. And this generation is very, very precious about the Finstars account. We could look into their wardrobes, but we couldn't ever look at anything what they had on their phone, on their Finstars, on their phones. So that means actually they form really like micro communities, and it's fascinating because as I mentioned, anything that is unfiltered makes them feel closer to each other. Something that we saw, for instance, on Facebook. Facebook used to be like connecting with friends, and at least for my generation, being a millennial, for them it's different. Facebook is for work. Facebook is for connecting with those Facebook groups, private pages for career advice, or even like as I say, for jobs, but also because parents and family are on Facebook. It's about showing that they are, like not curated image, but just sort of showing that they're okay, they're serious image, professional image of themselves. But then they will have the micro communities. They would be completely unfiltered. And I think, at the same time, so like smaller groups, because there are groups like on social about almost anything, they will create groups based on their own different interests. I will join groups. So I think it's interesting because this is, always said they need to connect on a smaller scale. I think it can go back to the next theme. I think it might link to the next theme, which is about influencers and micro influencers versus like huge social media celebrities. But it goes into a tricky element, which is, I think it's it is about connecting one-to-one. So what are the key platforms where brands can connect and have a one-to-one conversation with Gen Zs? Is it WhatsApp? How do we do that? Is it like, or it will be like Instagram, certain communities or Facebook groups? It's tricky, but I think it's not now all about broadcasting. It's about actually really liaising, also connecting with this audience around certain specific interests they have and where they are. Just for you to know, Facebook is going to be moving to more like a private space. So I think there's been recent news in terms of Facebook becoming more like in WhatsApp. That would be very interesting to see it would be interesting how it will shape out in the future, next couple of years. But this smaller scale, whether it's physical or digital, is very important. This is another thing I find is one of my favorites. So it's there's another paradox within this generation. They live in a very transient world. Think about, the fact they've got, whether it's Netflix, Amazon Prime, or a Kindle, or like dating apps where you can swipe and move on to the next whatever profile. Everything is very transient. Stories on Instagram is transient, Snapchat stories. So this generation grew up with that. And they will adapt and and they grew up in that time, so they will reinvent themselves. Also, their identity is transient. So some of the people we spoke to, they only had 4 posts on Instagram. It's because they purged the Instagram accounts, because who they were 6 months ago is not who they are now. And this is not like 2 years ago. It's really like a really short time period. So they will adapt and change their identity based on even like the context, what happens in their life, whether they've got a new relationship or a new job. However, they also value things that they can touch and keep. And I was very surprised by like all of them having memory boxes where they had, sorry, I've got the wrong image here, but where they had like the concert, the ticket of the latest concert, pictures, actual pictures of the school friends, and I had most of them also had pictures on the walls. And some of them also had disposable cameras, like Zach is saying, I've got a disposable camera to capture the spatial moments. And the reason why they still have physicality is very important for them is because it gives them like permanence, and it helps them feel grounded and safe within all the like transit world that they live in. So I think actually there are 2 key elements here. Is that I think for brands, the challenge will be to keep resonance, so still tap into these transient cultural moments and whatever the life stages and context, but at the same time make sure they engage with this audience at a core level. So around values that they're there to stay, the values they believe, and they're not going to change within 6 months time. From a more like tactical perspective is I will never discount anything in like what we call in real life moments and physical things. I think they're very, very important. Digital is not the only solution for them. They really want physical things. So it could be like merchandise or pop-ups or something that will give them that like experience they might get in a different way on the digital front. Right, we still have 2 more to go, so hopefully you're still with me. But the 5th one, we call it inverse influence, and we something that I think we saw with millennials, for instance, is that about big social media celebrities. Think about Zoella, other YouTubers and Instagrammers. They're huge. It does this type of particular social media personalities, rather than famous personalities overall. They're not as appealing for Gen Z. They say. Most of them said once they become very famous, I stop following them. Why? Because they really want people with earned credibility, with a talent and with skills that they can learn from, which actually feeds into the learn and unlearn theme we saw before. So again, all these themes are not like mutually exclusive. They just feed into each other because they're more like societal, generation themes. So it's good that they connect. As I said, so they really look into like micro influencers they can learn from, who they've got more resonance. It's more about resonance over reach, and like social media reach used to be everything. It's not reach doesn't mean resonance, it doesn't translate into brand awareness, doesn't translate into perception change. We also found very interesting the way these people, the peer network, these people, this generation have. So we were looking for a trendsetter within the groups. As I said, we met the friends, we spoke to their friends as well. There isn't a trendsetter. There isn't one go-to person. They will know everything about. It will know everything, they really, because they also got micro groups, and all these like friendship groups are very compartmentalized. They will be very much equal within the group. So there might be a person that will know a bit more about something, but it won't be the trendsetter, which is interesting because from an agency perspective, it makes us rethink the network, the influence network we need to, from like peer network, we need to target. So it's not about just how do we actually tap into these micro group friendship groups, and how do they form themselves. Another interesting element is the connection relationship they have with the parents. So I was very surprised to see when we asked them who are the people they mostly look up to, all of them mentioned their parents, whether they mom or they dad. And the reason why they also they said that they either learn something like a quality, like it could be like a quality, it could be like be generous, be kind, or they learn a skill, like be get into photography, they get into arts. So they really, really look up to their parents, and they really have a connection based on shared passions and interests. And I think this is very different from what we saw from the existing research from millennials, where you tend that millennials tend to have more like helicopter parents, and the connection between their relationship with the parents is not as positive. But if you think about research, and I'm not talking about individual cases, why is that important? It's because in advertising, I think we always overlook parents. And I think actually there was a way to bring them into the picture whenever we want to communicate with Gen Z. I think it would be very beneficial for the brand. So first of all, they tend to like consider the influencers you're working with. So you might have big scale influencers, global influence, high reach, but what about those micro influencers? So perhaps actually tap into, again, the united divided theme, and the micro community and the local area. So the more like genuine influencers. And then, as I say, there might be more value in several smaller personalities. But also, how do we actually leverage the friendship groups and the different types of relationship there, how they connect and how they influence each other, which is very much more horizontal than vertical. And finally, last one is the it's called hyper hybrids. I do have to apologize for the picture here. It's actually taken from one of the Gen Z that we spoke to, but it was quite, rudimental. It wasn't our phone, so there is a nice strange shadow there. Apologies for that, but it's very real. So what we said before is the Gen Z are very much fluid. We saw this in the first trend, and conscious contradictions, but there also this fluidity goes beyond self and into how to interact with the world around them. So interestingly, they really into those collaborations. They actually bring together different types of expertise and different types of brands. So this is what they share. They share unexpected things. So they will share, for instance, collaborations between a rapper and a cook, or they will share, or they will remember collaborations between a luxury fashion brand and more like a mainstream outdoor brand, which, you might think they're not what it brings them together, but they also are able to understand that there is like a sort of ethos, like shared ethos and shared values within, even if they belong to different categories, or even if they're completely different people, as I say, with completely different expertise. I think this is the more like tactical theme in terms of how to really to use it. This is just like, you know, say, they really, this is an example like collaborations they mention, but there are others that they mentioned, the last one between Adidas and Wang, where the Adidas logo was inverted, again making a like interesting statement. So they love collaboration that reflect their hybrid personalities, and they're really keen and really eager to embrace any type of like combined messages from brands, but it needs to be genuine. It can't be, you can't fool this audience. So they need to see that there is something above that, for which the partnership, the collaboration makes sense. But they will always want to be surprised. So the interesting, I think, is definitely there is a way to collaborate with other brands or with individuals outside your category, and then it's just something like I left it as a sort of like started. What could be an unexpected collaboration you could do, and what could the story be for this audience? And that's it really. That's the whole picture. Yeah. So I wasn't even that.
So on the topic of collaborations, like we're collaborating today on this webinar, I guess is just one example.
Yeah,
maybe not so off the wall, but it's a good example.
We do different things, but we still have, like, I think, over the shared interest and values.
Yeah, wonderful, Alice. I mean, there was so much good information in there. I just want to invite everyone who's on the webinar session today. Like, if you've got any questions, please just submit them into the little questions box. And if it's for Alice or if it's for me, then we can answer those. More than happy to do that. There was a lot of good information. I've got a couple of questions, or yeah, kind of questions or just sort of comments, especially around one that really struck a chord with me, Alice, was the you know, the point about not forgetting in real life experiences and somehow making a bridge between, like, you know, digital experiences or social media experiences, but also in real life. And I guess if you're a brand or you're a business or you're an organization, like trying to bridge the two together, so you're not treating each one sort of individually or separately, is a really big thing. I don't know, have you ever seen any nice examples of that being done by any organizations?
I did, in terms of I think like somebody it was a brand that does it quite well is like YouTube, but it was more actually integrated campaign, but so in terms that they didn't actually create like you know, it wasn't about creating like a pop-up shop or experience. But we did a campaign a few years ago, again, on YouTube creators. But the good thing is that we, it was not just digital, it was across like outdoor as well. So, and it was on buses, it was in stations, so it just digital outdoor, but I just say like posters on buses. And the good thing there was always like it was quite fluid, the narrative that the campaign was telling between social and the real world, what was out there. So it wasn't like two things in a, like two separate things in a silo. I would also say that everything should be, I mean, in terms of social, I think for me is everything is platform agnostic. So once you have got a good idea and you know your audience, you can apply across any channels. You could do anything. You can come up with an experiential events, but because you've got a core idea that will link everything together. And I think there are other brands that no one comes to mind, but any at the moment, but they try to do like more tactical, like master classes, and then share things on social. I think it's, again, sometimes we do things quite I think I can see brands do things quite tactically, but what is the overarching behavior we want to tap into? And I think actually another brand, I think it does it quite well, is for instance Disney. So they create, there's a lot of terms of like, we do a lot of things with Disney in terms of understanding how people talk about particular trailers and movies, and they based on that, based on the understanding, they actually create merchandise off the back of it, and this has been quite successful for them. But there is always, as I said, like a bigger story on why that character becomes like rather than another character. I don't know if that answers your question.
Yeah. It's interesting. Yeah, it was just one of the things that stuck out for me. We kind of do this a little bit ourselves at Crowd Control HQ. So we even for our clients, obviously, we try to strike up relationships with them on social media so that we maintain the conversation. But then also we take it offline and we send them some swag. Which often then comes back online, with people posting photographs and appreciating that we sent them the swag and things like that. So it's on a smaller scale compared to someone like Disney, but I definitely see that being true. It's quite interesting. Another thing that's quite interesting was the fact of moving away for Gen Zs as well, like perhaps not following the incredibly sort of famous influencers that you might think of on social media, and moving towards sort of smaller scale micro influencers or local influencers. We definitely see that with some organizations that we work with. For example, there's an automotive retailer, and they partner with sort of some local sports personalities and athletes as a way to keep it local, rather than trying to partner with some kind of superstar who's like a global athlete or global influencer, and that seems to give some good results. Very, very interesting. So folks, again, if you've got any questions, please submit it. I'm just going to have a quick look to see if we've got any coming through. Don't think we have any at the moment, so I guess it was all very well received, Alice. Oh, sorry, 1 second. We're getting 1 or 2 coming through. Okay, so here's an interesting one for you, Alice. What would you say is the most important of the 6 factors to focus on as a starting point? It's a tricky question, I guess, but it'd be interesting to get your
of all the themes. So a tricky thing.
Yeah, the 6 themes that you shared today. I mean,
6. Oh wow! I think it's definitely how they. I might be a bit biased, but
okay.
For me, it's definitely how, because this thing is quite central for others as well, how they learn and how they unlearn. I think this notion of unlearn is so important, right. Because you might, regardless, I think what the brand is, I think it's really understanding their mindset and the fact they will never get anything for granted, even if, for instance, you would think about even like, I don't know, corporate responsibility values, or what the communication that the brand puts out. They might unpack it and say, okay, show me, or that would be like the way they learn and how they might, not judge it, but I think they want to be convinced. They're not very trustful.
Okay.
But I think it's how you take them on the journey, really. So in terms of like, if you guys say anything they want to, if there is anything you can teach them, definitely would be, I think they will be loving your brand for this reason.
Okay, yeah, interesting. That's a good point. Okay, I think that's all the questions that we had. So before we say goodbye, I just wanted to let everyone know who's on the session today. If you're working in the social media world, you work in marketing, comms, even customer service, customer experience, Crowd Control HQ, we have this fantastic event coming up, Inspired Social. It's on Wednesday, 13th of June. You can get your tickets now. Please just visit the Crowd Control HQ website and just hit the link for the event. We'd love to see you there. There's still some tickets available, I think. And it's going to be a great day where you can learn and pick up like new skills that can empower your strategies for your social media going forward for the next year. We've got some great brands speaking and also some sort of independent thought leaders and experts. So we'd love to have you there. So with that, Alice, big thank you. It's been a really interesting session today.
Thank you for having me here.
Oh, pleasure. Yeah. So, and thank you for everyone else who's joined the session today. I hope to see you again soon on another Crowd Control HQ webinar. And if you've enjoyed today's session, give us a tweet Crowd Control HQ, tweet at We Are Social. Let us know that you enjoyed it. What was your favorite takeaway or anything that you're going to try to implement in your own organization? We'd love to hear that. So yeah, thanks again, and I hope you have a good day.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.